Hey, right.
Where's the
two,
count?
Doesn't matter.
Oh.
Just ready. 1, 2, 3.
Hey!
What's going on, you guys? This is Cage 9. Well, this is Evan Enabled from Cage 9. You get the picture. We just put out our new album, Hypothesia. So we wanted to answer a couple questions from our amigos on Instagram. So give everybody a shout out. I want to start en español for our friends from Bullet Height, Mexico. Saludos. And his question goes: Su inspiración para la creación del álbum y contiene canciones en español. Saludos. So he's asking, which actually a few other people asked, was what was the inspiration for Hypothesia, and does it have songs in Spanish? So the number 2 is no, it does not have songs in Spanish. No tiene canciones en español, pero muy probablemente vamos a grabar un par de las canciones que existen en versiones en español. Por ejemplo, la canción Hypothesia, Gustavo thought would sound really good in Spanish. So
that would actually.
Yeah. So there's a chance we might do that. So a few people asked what the inspiration for the album was, and of course that's always kind of a hard thing to sort of, respond to, because, your inspiration comes from many places. It, depends on the song. It depends on so much. Essentially, it was me and Abel jamming, in early 2018. We kind of just spent like a few weeks off and on jamming out ideas, and, a bunch of those, really, of that early batch of songs turned into pretty much what the album was at the end of the day. So we kind of chose like our favorite riffs. We just record everything that we'd jam out in the studio, and of those songs we would choose our favorite, and then over the following months I would sit around, just see which ones were more inspired. I'd look through my, I keep like a lyric book where I just have lots of ideas for song ideas, and kind of just sing over stuff and see what fits, what felt right. And so the title Hypothesia, if you look it up, it's like a medical term basically for numbness and dizziness. And in a lot of ways, this album for me was kind of a reaction to my father passed away 2 years ago, and I'm kind of coming off of that. I'm trying to get inspired again, trying to get back into art and music, and it's hard to now be a kind of a new person when you come through like a loss like that. So how does that reflect in music? And a lot of it is essentially, you're fighting against the numbness and the, your kind of will to not expose yourself and not, feel. And a good example is like the song Ice Age. Like the main chorus says, today's the day that I stood in the sun. And that's kind of a good kind of jumping off point for the whole theme behind the album, where it was essentially like I walked out on my way to the studio. We were going to be jamming, and it was like a really sunny day, and it was really pretty. And I was just like, wow, today's like kind of the first day I don't feel like horrible. I feel a lot less down, and so we tried to grab a lot of that in the feel of this album, but ultimately it's it's kind of like a rebellion against numbness, and just trying to be inspired. And so that's Hypothesia. That's in a nutshell, sort of. Anyway, so moving on. Curtis, what's up, my buddy Curtis from Wasteland? Do you remember Curtis actually?
Yeah.
Curtis was standing at the gates. He was one of the guards at the gates.
Yeah.
He was actually very intimidating. And he walked up. He's like, "You're Cage 9." And we were like, "Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You guys are cool." So big shout out to Curtis. I know he's been a supporter.
What up, Curtis?
How you doing, buddy? And his question is, when you enter the studio, how much of the album is fully formed and how much is shaped by the producer? And who has been your favorite producer and why? So, who's your favorite producer, dude?
You. I mean, when we wrote the record, it was we were just planning on writing an EP, and we ended up, getting a lot more ideas that kind of stuck to the wall. And it was a lot easier to write with Evan on this because we just clicked, and the chemistry we just read each other. I've always been a fan of Cage 9 stuff, and after realizing how much work Evan puts into a record, I've always been a fan of him as an artist, but to see what he does with producing music is pretty amazing. And lot of respect for this guy right here. He brought the magic that makes this album work. Like, we wrote a ton of the music together, but for what his visions and his lyrics brought and the hooks that brought to this album is tremendous. And I think it's possibly the best Cage Nine record to date.
Oh, you would say that just because you played on it,
Well,
of course.
well,
I agree, though. I'm pumped about the album. I feel like we did something kind of, in a lot of ways, very spontaneous. You know, a lot of the songs kind of stood back a bit. I tried not to overthink in terms of, the production and the arrangement.
well,
Well, not overthinking means getting it done in under a year. So
yeah.
overthinking requires multiple years. So we did actually crank it out pretty quick, So, but yeah, we did do it totally in house in our rehearsal spot. Actually, if you watched our live stream the other night, that is literally the room where this entire album was recorded. And it's been a pretty, fun experience. I think we cranked it out, like we said, in a pretty good pace. And because of that, I think the songs are they're pretty direct. They're heavy. There's a lot of musical wankery going on as far as from a musician standpoint, But I think it was tasteful. I think we
It's not too much. I mean,
No,
we
not
cut
too
out
much
a
at
lot
all.
We cut out a lot of bullshit.
we did
that was there.
cut out a lot of our favorite solos and drum rolls.
You know, more kick drum.
Yeah, always a
Constant.
little more cowbell. There was not as much cowbell as we would have liked. Cool. So, A Harsh World. I hope we answered your question as well with some of the other stuff we were saying. And also Alfredo MNTNZ. Also, you heard us talk about the name of the album. Scribble Official. What's up, dude?
What's up, Scribble Official?
And his question is pretty straight up. How fucking dope is Abel on them skins? Hashtag beast. Yeah, I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, how dope is Abel on those skins?
I don't know how dope he is, but
He's
just trying to hang together.
Yeah, he did a great job though. Gustavo has been very busy with raising his family. Well, he's got like 30 kids, I think.
Got a posse.
So we didn't see a lot of Gustavo on the making of this album, but he was in on all the text threads and all the emails. Like, yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds good. Yeah, take that out. That sucks. But yeah, Abel did a great job of just laying down sick ass beats, and he was dope the whole time, all the way through.
It was. I'm not going to say effortless, but like I said before, like Evan and I really clicked. But there's just something, some creativity, and just a new level of creativity and direction with my playing was just came out of nowhere. It was weird. It wasn't forced. It was just, I just laid down whatever I thought. There was a lot of voice memos that I had on the phone. I'd be driving and I'd come up with this beat or a rhythm in my head, and I better record that or I'm gonna forget it. And
Actually,
and
the Vertigo.
Vertigo.
So the
was
Vertigo
that.
is
there might be
one
a
of his
couple
voice
others.
memos.
I think Earthquake, the intro drum beat. I was just warming up, and Evan's like, "Keep playing
Yeah.
that," and then we wrote Earthquake from that.
Yeah, actually,
So it's
Earthquake
trippy.
is a good example. I'd say that's probably one of the first songs we wrote from this album, and to me, it's still kind of like maybe my favorite, but because it was like literally that take that you hear on the album is essentially the way we like jammed it when we just he was kind of just playing that beat, and I was like, oh, how about this? And you kind of tell it's like not a whole lot of thought process. We were just kind of rolling with the feel of it, and I was like singing into very distorted microphone, and when we listened to the playback on my phone, it was 3 minutes long of jamming, but very concise. We ended up verse, chorus, solo, and little jam section, and that essentially is what that song turned out to be. And even some of the lyrics that I was kind of scatting in are the lyrics, the feel just
Yeah,
it was
weird.
very organic. So
And I was like, wow, okay, here we go. And we kept at it. We were in the studio almost every night, trying to do something. Some days worked, some days didn't, and we would stop if it was feeling forced. And we just tried to keep it natural and come up with some good grooves and great guitar riffs. And then I went on the road for a little bit on the Jonathan Davis thing, and he would be sending me mixes or ideas, and I'm just like, keep going that way, And I believe in Evan a lot, and I figured whatever we had wrote together was gonna take form, in my absence. But I'm just glad we had got to write way more than 3 songs for this record.
And your boss Ray Luziero is very supportive through the whole process
Yeah,
as
the
well.
whole Korn camp's been very supportive.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome to say.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
He of course was working for Korn as drum tech for like the past like 10 years, you know. So a lot of the stuff that we were bouncing around, like Monkey would chime in on, like, "Oh, dude, that riff's cool." Like, is that Monkey like commenting on our riff? Like, that's pretty awesome.
Well, you know, it's a family, and those guys are my brothers, and I respect them as you know, accomplished musicians, and their opinion matters to me, and it's always good to get, you know, an opinion from a musician that's in the top tier of the industry. So it's fortunate and a great asset to have such great friends and family in this business. So I've been very blessed by that, and I appreciate it.
Jay, my buddy Jay from All Hail the Crimson King, another Wasteland homie, and he also has a sick band called 223. He was asking, what was the most challenging song to write for this record? And I actually kind of think Hypothesia was the title track, which wasn't originally the title track. In fact, that riff was one of the things we had like jammed out. It sounded really cool. We liked it. It's like an A, so it's like a half step lower than a lot of the other songs. And it was a really cool riff, and I had some really cool melodies, but the lyrics that I originally had like totally did not work. Even though they're very catchy, but
I like the hook, but
they weren't connecting for me, you know. So I went through a couple variations of it, and that was definitely one of the songs that was on the back burner. Like I definitely didn't think was going to make it on there, but I probably went to 3 or 4 versions, and the final version I'm very happy with. You know, we ended up using this really weird auto tune on the vocal, just kind of give it a different vibe and kind of push it into different territory.
At first, I was like, "What the hell?
What are you doing?
You know, what happened to the killer hook we had?" And then he's like, "I wasn't vibing it," and I was like, "All right." And then so it took me a minute. The first time I heard it was hard for me to get on board because of that effect. But then after a few times listening to it in depth, I was like, it was pretty cool, because when we come in with heavy with that beat, it would be or with that groove, it was just like, wow, that sucked you in.
It is pretty chunky.
That was the one thing I was like, well, the dynamic between the two was really awesome, and I was like, dude, I'm with it. It's taking me a minute to get on board with it, but that's actually one of my favorite songs.
I am glad we pulled that one together, because that was like one of the riffs that was like in the garbage forever, but every time it would kind of kick on, I'd be like, oh man, I wish I could make this work.
Yeah.
But I think that's the case for a lot of musicians. I mean, I think every album for Cage 9 until now, there's been like a ridiculous amount of songs that get thrown away. In fact, in my computer, it's just full of like dead songs that were like, they had so much promise, you know, but they just did not make the cut at the end. You know, you're like, the song is 70% awesome, but there's like that last 30% is like just not working, you know. So that song made it through, and I'm glad it did, because it does hit hard, and it's got a good groove live, so it's been kind of fun. In our live stream, we kind of were trying out all these songs. We'd never played probably half of them in front of anybody, so it was kind of interesting.
But that had a good response it's becoming almost one of my favorite songs. Maybe I think Vertigo is probably my favorite. That's just because there's a lot of busy drums.
Yeah. And Vertigo, I would say, if we were still talking about challenging, Vertigo was, although I don't say it was challenging, I mean, it's challenging to play, but it really came together well, which is, you know, a good sign for a song where you can kind of like connect all the dots in a reasonable amount of time without losing your excitement about it. Because any riff, after you do a riff more than, you know, you hear it more than a couple times, you instantly just, your brain stops turning off. You're not excited about it anymore. You think it sucks, you know, so you kind of got to push through the first part of the creation of the riff and like be able to kind of continue working on it without deciding that it's bad, you know. Anyway, so Dawn Cloud9, what's up?
So Dawn,
she's asking, which a few people are asking, which is, will you be doing a tour to promote your new album? And what a person have to do to get Cage 9 to book a concert in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? Yeah, it's a good question, man. I really want to get back to Milwaukee. We've had some really fun Midwest shows over the years, and I know we haven't been there in a little while, but you don't have to do anything. We are going to come to you this year. I know it. I can feel it. We're working on a few opportunities for touring, so we don't have like actual, you know, anything physical like in stone yet, but I do believe that in 2019 you'll be seeing us on tour, so hold tight, everybody, and Cage 9 will be coming to you somewhere in America, and hopefully in Panama, in Mexico, y para los otros amigos en Latinoamérica, para ver si venimos a visitar. It'd be great if we went back to Japan. We got a few things in the oven, so hopefully we're going to be doing some touring this year.
I know we are.
I know it. Matt Crabe on Facebook was asking, why aren't you signed and in the mainstream spotlight? Love you guys. And that's like a question
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, dude. You rock, man. That's really kind, man. That's like one of the things that, like, as a musician, you just don't think about, you know. Or if you do, like, I wouldn't be, you know, I've been doing Cage 9 for a long time, and I wouldn't be here if I was asking myself that question, like trying to measure, like, you know, the statistics of why you're not more popular or famous. You know, I think as a band and as a musician, as an artist, you kind of just need to do the best you can, make the best music you can, and kind of not worry too much about, you know, how it's playing out in the public. Of course, you want people to like you and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's kind of more about being satisfied as a musician. I mean, any one of us could go off and probably be a paid musician, work, you know, playing in some other big famous band and be getting paid, but you're never just going to be happy about what you do if you're always trying to reach the top of the mountain and, you know, getting unhappy when you're not getting there at a certain speed or whatever. So
yeah, I know that we have a really great record here, and you know, it's just like, I'm proud of that thing, and if the planets don't align for it, I'm okay with it, because I'd still buy this record if I wasn't in this band, you know. And it's something that's really special to me, and I know Evan too. And you know, as far as like not being signed, I don't really think you need to be signed anymore. You know, we did all this on our own, and Evan did obviously more of the heavy lifting on it, but you know, I think it's a matter of getting our music out there to the people, and there's a lot of easier ways to do that without a big record label, you know, basically doing that for us. So, but we got some great things in place for the year, and I think this year, 2019, is a big change for this band. I really feel it.
So, yeah, Matt, we're coming to rock with you, man.
Good question, Matt.
Ana María Martínez también, si habrá una gira, no sé si estás en Panamá, pero espero que podamos visitar a Panamá pronto, hacer un show. Y también no sé si entendiste todo lo que estábamos hablando antes acerca de la creación del álbum, pero así que saludo a todos los fans de Panamá. Jared Atkins was also asking, Jared, wait, is this Grin? I think this is Grin from Wasteland. We just saw the playback of our live stream, and I think it was Jared who we had run into after our performance at Wasteland Weekend, which of course is a post-apocalyptic festival in the middle of the California desert that we played at last year.
Oh yeah.
And of course we have a song called Wasteland. It wasn't originally about Wasteland, but as I went connecting the dots for that song, at some point I was like, this is totally about Wasteland.
It was perfect.
So, it's like, maybe if we write this a little bit more about Wasteland, we'll get to play at Wasteland. And actually, the stars aligning, we were able to play at Wasteland this year. But
yeah, it's so stupid how perfect that was.
That didn't work out good. Yeah. So at Wasteland, everyone is supposed to have a nickname, and we didn't realize that. And this dude, Jared, ran into us. He's like, hey, you guys, are you the band that played the song, or he asked me what the song was called, Earthquake. And he's like, basically it ended up being that, like, that was my Wasteland name, which I would like to thank Grin. His name was Grin. And thanks, Grin, dude. That's like the coolest name ever. I appreciate it. I totally identify with that name. I wish I could just be Earthquake always, actually. Maybe I should do that. I don't know.
So his question was, I would like to know the inspiration for each song. What led you to make each one specifically and add it together to the album?
1984, which of course falls also maybe into the Wasteland category of post-apocalyptic themes. I'd found a poster for a play for the book, obviously 1984, which I've read, you know, multiple times. So I felt like there was a need to, you know, I know people have probably written songs about the book, but I just thought it would be kind of cool to do a riff on it. And I would like to mention also that Jesse Belts, our old guitar player, is doing the vocoder computer voice that you hear. So we have a little guest vocalist there. Mm-hmm. And my friend from the band, Hannah from London. Hey, Hannah.
Hey.
Who actually I'm going to be hanging out with tomorrow at NAMM. Does a lot of the haze in there. I was actually working on her album, and it occurred to me that I needed some female vocal haze in that song. Maybe I'll do a separate video where I talk maybe about every song, but yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. Is there anything? Do you want to tell the story about actually Ice Age, the song I'd mentioned earlier, has a funny story as well. That was a very quick jam that we'd kind of had a real basic template for, and what exactly happened that we decided to try to make that song literally was written and put together in like a day for a very specific reason that didn't end up panning out. So Richard Patrick, our buddy Richard Patrick, which you had actually worked for at one point.
Yeah,
We had sort of gotten him. He was like in the middle of something. I don't know how it all worked out, but you had texted him.
I sent him the rough
of that song
to see what he thought, and he liked it, and we tried to get him to do some backing vocals.
So I essentially, if you listen to Ice Age, the big that was totally supposed to be, I wrote that with like Richard Patrick in mind. So maybe we'll somehow coax him to come do that with us live on stage if we can go like open for Filter or something.
Yeah. Did we do that one?
Well, so Corn Girl.
I know who that is.
What's up, Corn Girl 210?
Hey, Corn Girl.
How you doing?
210.
Thanks for your support. You rock.
Love you, darling.
Yeah, so you're also asking if we'd be doing a U.S. tour, and yeah, we definitely hope so. I'm like 90% sure we'll be out there around America in 2019. So
we got a little late start for 2019, but there's stuff being worked out, and things are going to start moving in that direction, and just keep an eye on the websites and Facebook and the IG, and we'll definitely be posting any exciting plans that we have coming up.
And shout out to James Yeager. What's going on, buddy?
James Yeager.
He was also asking about the tour, so yeah, it would be
I
phenomenal.
think it's Yeager. James Yeager.
You know, Yeager. You'd think I'd remember that. I mean, we're a touring band. Nobody knows Yeager better than touring bands. So, hey, this is Cage 9. We feel free to ask more questions, leave in the comments, and we'll probably do a few more things, certainly from the road. Abel here's taken off on tour with Seven Dust with his buddy Morgan, helping out drum teching for the next month. So if you see this in time, catch Seven Dust. Look out for Abel here.
Yeah. Seven Dust, Tremonti, Cane Hill, and 2 other bands. So should be good fun time.
Yeah. And maybe Cage 9 will be opening for Seven Dust at some point. In
the
real near future.
Likely in the future.
I feel it.
It's what it is.
So thanks everybody for your questions. Thanks for your support. And
thank you very much, everybody.
You guys are awesome. We will see you out there. Cut.